Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapclis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo plus Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow. Yo, what's happening, my friends? Welcome to this episode of the Just Grow podcast. Super excited to have you here on this one. This is going to be with Lauren of Love. She is incredible. I have a really cool story in my journey getting connected with her. I invested into some of her master classes, and she really helps spiritual entrepreneurs heal and grow their business from a very heart-led space. She works specifically with women most of the time. I found myself inside of one of her master classes, and it was all women and me. It's kind of funny. But just, she's incredible. And she just dropped some gold on this episode. So you're not going to want to miss a single second of this episode. Now, before we do jump in, just want to let you know about our March 29th Just Grow Podcast live event. It'll be with Samantha Harper. She's a sound healer. She's a healer as well, and a coach. And just one of the most incredible people. She's overcome cancer 3 different times, and that just slightly scratches the surface of what kind of incredible human being she is. So you're not going to want to miss that. If you'd like to grab tickets, go to www.justgrowpodcast.com. Links are down in the description and the show notes. But without further ado, let's jump into this interview with Lauren of Love. Thank you for being here, Lauren. I'm so excited
Thank you
about this.
for having me. I'm so pumped. I can't wait to drop in today. I'm really excited to see where we take this.
Yeah, because you're so, way I see you, you're so multifaceted. And I just, as I mentioned to you, already, like, we don't even know each other that well, but you have a special place in my heart because I was in a very transitionary period where I just kind of felt like boxed in with, like, a lot of my mentors were telling me, you have to do it this way. You have to be one message, one avatar. And I just, like, I didn't feel right. And so I started kind of like seeking out some new mentorship a little bit more in the spiritual space because, my audience and my offerings are definitely a little bit more on the spiritual side. So I found you, and I invested into your IG code as well as the Know Your Niche, and it just, like, it changed the game. And like I told you, I've been on a wave since, and, like, I feel it first and foremost, and I just feel like so invigorated and inspired right now with where I'm at. And it's noticeable the way that people are responding to it as well.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to express my gratitude because, yeah, you've had a big impact on my life, and I tell everyone about you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Nico. And I feel like watching you, like, you've been popping up on my feed, like, over the last couple of months, and I've been just witnessing, like, every time I see your work, I'm like, whoa, that's stronger. Whoa, that's stronger. Oh my God, that's stronger. And it's been really cool to see, like, I think that the depths of our impact really come through liberation when we really break out of these restrictions and programs of expectation that we put on ourselves. And when we just kind of let go of that to just find our deep soul's calling of medicine, the power is just so much stronger. So I've been really loving witnessing you in that. And thank you for trusting me to share my work with you. It's been really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. And like what we were saying is, like, we could probably have a 5-hour conversation because there's
I
so many
know.
directions we could go with this. But maybe we start out, like, I usually start out with just, like, hearing people's story. And um how did you kind of, because I know you had a corporate job for some time and then you transitioned into this, and I think it would be valuable for people definitely to hear, especially on the spiritual side, because I think it kind of gets this misconception that it's like it's tough to have a successful business if you're just focusing on the spiritual side of things?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was in my former life a television news producer.
Okay.
I worked for CBS News. So as a spiritual person, I kind of really laugh about that now. Like I was the problem, it was me. Um, and my awakening and deep just yeah, I think the best way to describe it is a wake up. It happened around the time I was about 5 years into my career, and I was like, this isn't it. Like I've done all the right things. I've gotten the good grades in school to get the corporate job, to climb the ladder, to break the glass ceiling. I'm doing all of that and I'm miserable. I was so unhappy. I was so unfulfilled. And when my grandfather died, that really was kind of the time where I was like, I gotta start over. So I left and really awakened to this truth that I deserved to be happy in my life, and following the rules was not getting me there. So I started to focus on my personal development and really looking at myself. And I realized that through my own healing of becoming more connected to myself, I really wanted to help the world. And so that was when I started a blog. It was like back in 2015. And I was like, I'm gonna be a famous blogger. And I like pulled my 401k and gave myself a year to try and make it work. And it was like one of the scariest, difficult experiences, but like the most rewarding looking back. It totally shaped me. And it was just this series. I mean, it's been 8 years now in this field, and it's just been a series of deep inner work over and over again, and deep study of personal expression. And it's like those two things go hand in hand. The more I grow myself, the more my business grows. And it's been really cool to witness that. And this story of like, you can't be spiritual and like make a lot of money. Oh my God. For God's sakes, I'm pretty sure like Mother Teresa was driving around in some private jets for like the rest of her life before she died because she was making such a big impact. So like, I don't know. I mean, it's a crazy story. And I think we have to ask ourselves, like, why is that story there? Is it to limit us and to keep us small? Um, but really healing is about challenging all those stories and asking, like, why is this true? Do I want this to be true for me? So I think if you're out there and you're listening and you have a spiritual connection, you have a responsibility to honor that and to break those rules.
Yeah. Because it is like, when you do impact more people, like, how can you not like be abundant?
Yeah, and also, like, there's this whole perspective. I don't know if you've seen this in your study, because 'cause you're in Scottsdale, right? You're in
Hmm.
Scottsdale?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's, like, a ton of spiritual people over there in
Oh, yeah.
Arizona. It's, like,
Yeah.
such a hub. But yeah, there's, like, a ton of people who are spiritual and have these really deep gifts, and then they feel like they can't be financially compensated because they don't wanna subscribe to the matrix ideologies, and they don't wanna, like, they don't wanna be the bad guy who has a lot of money. But um yeah, that I think is the biggest part of it. It's like being guilty to receive wealth, and that's what stops a lot of spiritual people from being successful.
So that was going to be my question, is like, what do you think it is specifically that stops these spiritual people that have big hearts, that are servant leaders, but just don't seem to be making the money?
I've been actually reflecting on this a lot because I just recently I took a 3-week pause off of social media to go to the jungle in
Yep.
Peru to
Yep.
do my ayahuasca diet. And when I was there, this book was coming through to me that I've been wanting to channel for so long. I was so excited about it. And it was all rooted in that one question of like, why is it that people who are really spiritual, many of them who have gifts they want to share with the world, just don't make money? Like, what is this? Why are they struggling? And I was having this really deep conversation with some of the people who were at this particular retreat that I went to. And it was so interesting. Like there's so many points here, right? So there's the point of like, I didn't create these gifts, so who am I to profit off of this, right? This is like maybe you're a yoga teacher or a Kundalini expert, or you're a really great breathwork facilitator. So it's not really your modality, it's a modality that you've learned, and you're like, I don't feel like I have ownership of this. I feel guilty being compensated.
Mm.
And then there's that other piece of like, hmm, well, if I'm really here to help people, I shouldn't charge a lot of money because then that's really sleazy and I should make my resources accessible, which I have so much to say on that. We could talk about that for
Okay.
days because I have a lot of it, as you know, I have a lot of accessibility in my offerings. Um, and then, yeah, and then there's that other piece of like actually being afraid of spiritual warfare, which is like this concept of like getting canceled or, being really successful and then having the rug pulled out from underneath you and being attacked on social media. So I think that's a really big piece of it too, in addition to all of the other points. But I feel like as medicine facilitators, whether you have the gift of healing or the gift of holding space or the gift of being a coach or a mentor, we have this really deep responsibility to rewire those things and
Mhm.
challenge them. And I think that's really like when I talk about the inner work, like that's the responsibility we have, is to question all of those belief systems and let them go.
Mm. I love that you said that. And you mentioned that earlier, and I did want to kind of piggyback off of that because for the longest time, one of my favorite questions is why. And even more detailed is like, why do you think the way you think? Why do you blindly believe what this person tells you? Why is this news station the thing that you plug into and deem truth? Like
Yeah.
for me, and this has been a big, kind of a big mission for me for a while, is like I don't care what anybody thinks as long as it's what they think. Like I love to like help activate people to think critically for themselves rather than just taking blind trust to something or
Yeah.
somebody that usually doesn't have their best interest in heart, but they don't realize it.
It's so important. Like this is a whole rabbit hole, like the world we live in. I think you've probably witnessed this as well over the last like 3 years or so. It's like people are getting so lost in these belief systems, and it's on both sides, right? Like it's on both sides of the equation. People are getting wrapped up in all these like fear-based ideologies that are really addictive, and they're very controlling to our personal power. And I really love that you said that. It's like critically thinking. Like even when I was younger and I did take the big leap to pursue this mission that I have today, I remember having to challenge the debt is bad belief, right? Because in your business, you're taking all these leaps, you're taking all these risks, and I accrued so much debt.
Yeah.
I remember just sitting there and having that very like downloaded thought of like, well, why is debt bad? Like, why? And I'm like, well, interest and credit scores. I'm like, but why is that bad? Why? And I just kept asking, like, but why is that bad? But why is that bad? And I tracked it all the way back to like my mom and dad said so, and that was like by the time I played that game and I got to that point at the very end, I realized like, okay, well, I could choose to believe what's been passed down to me, or I can liberate myself and have a different perspective, right? And so I think that critical thinking point is just so important.
And even on top of that, I would say something, even I think it's interlaced in everything that you're saying is courage.
Mm.
Because like having the courage to think for yourself.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do you think courage is? How do you define courage?
Being scared and doing it anyways.
Mm. Mm.
I feel like it's so liberating. And that's the thing that's probably served me the most. I was scared to go do ayahuasca, but I did it. I was scared to address traumas, but I did it. I was scared to speak in front of crowds, but I did it.
Mm.
I was scared to invest money into my business. I was scared to invest into mentors, but I did it. And every time I do it, I'm proving to myself that like you can do this. And I think, have you ever heard of this concept of pendulums?
Yes. Tell
Where
me, tell me more.
the way I describe it, some people explain it differently, but like it's almost like this energy of tornado. How should I say? Uh, a tornado of energy.
Hmm.
So then like people get sucked into it. And I think, just to keep it brief, because it's a
Yeah.
large concept, but like basically, um, the current pendulum right now is societal norms. And it's created from things that have mass influence and mass control, like media, the food system, all that. So it's pretty much at fear, scarcity, and lack right now. And so that's what it's embedded. Like, let's just take media, for example. It's just been embedded. Everything in the media is programming us for fear, scarcity, and lack. And so it's a tornado of energy, and the stronger it gets, the more it like pulls people in. So that's why I think now in today's day and age, more than ever, it's harder and harder to think for yourself because the pendulum is becoming so strong.
Oh, for sure. 100%. And we see it in like so many different facets of our culture. We see it all over social media, right? Like it's very apparent that the way you're describing it visually is just very accurate in my mind's eye, that we're in that game. And I think that there are people who are standing on the other side of that tornado, and they're witnessing that, and they're strategizing how to pull people out of that. And I think that's really what light work is. It's like you're not in the tornado with everybody, you're outside of it, and you're like, hey, come this way, like I'll help pull you out. And that's, I think, what we're really all doing is just trying to end, at the core of it, the addiction to suffering and the addiction to fear and the addiction to playing small and being controlled. It's a really deep study of this human experience, and psychedelics are great for that. So it's so cool that you were able to experience that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think this actually would be a good segue into social media. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of things I want to talk to you about it.
bring it.
For one, like just huge congratulations, and I'm so pumped for you because when I met you, from what I recall, you were right around 40,000 followers, and now you're at 160, is right around there.
Yeah, like 165, I think, something like
That's
that.
amazing, and that
Yeah.
was a couple months ago.
Yeah, like 3 months ago.
So I know you've posted a little bit about this. So I'm just gonna like tell you all my questions, and we can dive into whichever ones you want. But what has that brought up for you? And like, how have you been navigating that? Because I have to imagine there's a whole lot that comes with that. I've noticed as I've started to throw more events, there's a lot of things that come up for me with that, like more exposure and like then, wondering if like, where's my worth based on like how many people come to the events. Like it's a whole thing. So I'm curious about that. I'm curious on how you stay focused and not like get too sucked into the whole world of social media. Because I know from my perspective, when I start creating more, I get like more drawn into the more likes and the more comments and just being on there more. I'm also curious on like how are you able to create so much content? Like you are impressive with like you post like 2 to 3 times a day. I think one a day is I'm getting my system down for sure and it's coming, but yeah, I think those are like kind of the main questions and yeah, and just how in general, how do you feel about social media too?
Mm,
I'm curious about.
yeah.
So I just
I
loaded you with some questions.
I'm so excited. Like you mapped out all the things that I'd love to talk about. So this gets me really pumped. Um yeah, so how I personally feel, I'm going to start with that last question, then kind of go from the top. How I personally feel about social media is that I love it. I really do. And this was something that I recognized, and I recognize in of a lot of people who are trying to grow successful social media platforms. You can't thrive in something that you hate, right? And there's so much talk about how technology is awful, and social media, especially in the spiritual community, there's so many people who are just shitting all over social media as if it's this really horrible, horrific, source of suffering for the world. And while that perspective is true, because duality does exist, there is this other side of the equation where social media is actually such an incredible resource. Like I get messages from women all the time who are sharing like their mental health journeys and their relationships with their suicidal history and their breaking patterns of abusive relationships, and they're reading my content, and it's inspiring them to create change, it's inspiring them to feel better about themselves. And these are people who I would never have access to if social media didn't exist. So like, you know, we have to find gratitude in this perspective of this game that we were playing, and we have to like the game that we are playing. We also have to know how to, play the game by the rules and then break them a little bit, right? Like that's also a really important part of this. A wise teacher once said to me, like, no, if this was in journalism school, she said, know the rules so you can break them.
Mm.
Right? And like that's always stuck with me, because in social media landscape, there are a lot of people who are just trying to learn the rules so they can just do the rules so that it can work.
Mm.
But really what actually works is knowing those rules and then breaking them, right? So it's important. Do you understand what I'm saying by
Yeah,
that? Make
definitely.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where like original content comes through and new ideas come through, because once you understand how a game is played, you could play it a little bit differently. So for background and context, um, I didn't always love social media because there was a long period of my career, again, 8 years I've been doing this, right? So there's a long period where my Instagram, when I had my spiritual awakening in the middle of this 8 years, went like gonna just not grow. Your Instagram engagement's gonna drop. Nobody's gonna like what you're talking about, because I was changing my message. I was deepening myself. And there was this period of like maybe 2 years or 3 years where I just was like, every time I looked at my Instagram, I would get so mad that the numbers were not what I wanted them to be. Nobody was engaging, nobody liked my stuff, no new followers, no DMs. It was so frustrating.
Yeah.
So I really had to heal that. But to answer your first question of like what's come up for me and like how I'm navigating this now, you go from overnight, like it literally felt like it was overnight,
It
to
was.
see it,
From my
it
perspective.
was.
Well, it wasn't like you built all the groundwork up and you've been working
Yes.
so hard, and then eventually it just like something clicked
Mhm.
with an algorithm and you just popped. It was so cool to see.
It was fun, right? Like I got messages from people who are like, your Instagram's a reality TV show. Like I reset it to see like how many people are following you and what's going on. 'Cause it was fun to see it like a lottery game kind of just growing. Um, but yeah, I put in a lot of work before that. And one thing, I was just telling a client about this today, one really big thing that changed for me was when I decided that I didn't need more people in front of me. I needed to fall in love with the people who were in front of me. And
Mm.
so before this really big blow up, I had this huge shift in my energy where I was like, I'm going to create a raving community with what is already here. I'm going to connect. I'm going to have engagement. I'm going to participate and get to know people and talk to them and ask them questions and build relationships. And the more I did that, the more it was like the universe was rewarding me for the love that I was really pouring into what existed. So that's how it happened. It was actually by like not caring about what other people would like to decide if they wanted to come, but like nurturing the party I had right in front of me, right? And so seeing like I saw Viola Davis shared my work and Kristen Bell shared my work, and like all these really cool things were happening because when I got really clear on what the people in front of me wanted and I did a really good job of giving them what they needed, it became duplicatable, right? What's been coming up for me in this season, I don't have a fear of like speaking my truth. I don't have a fear of being afraid that people won't like something that I'll have to say or that I'll be hurtful. And I think that's because I just did so much work around removing my own triggers and like when you're creating in social media and you have something that you're annoyed about or something you're triggered by and you put it out there, it's just going to create more triggered reaction, right? So if you're really clean and you're really clear, you can be able to translate that. So I don't have that concern. I think what's been really interesting for me to navigate is the feeling of like I've wanted this for so long,
Mm,
and like now it's here, and I can exhale on an intention that's been on my heart for a really long time.
mm,
And in the past, I used to have goals and dreams set for myself. Like I remember when I hit my first this was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I hit my first six-figure week. Okay. And I was like, I wanted this. I know. I was like, I wanted this for so long. It happened. But I was so insecure back then, and I was carrying so much wounding that that wasn't enough. And I hit that goal and I felt empty and I felt unfulfilled. And now I'm here hitting a goal and intention that had been on my heart for a while. And it's like, oh, yeah,
yeah.
like just like nice. So that's been really, really beautiful. But it has been interesting to navigate like, how do you hold space for 160,000 people when you're overnight not used to that? It's like more growth, more engagement. And so that's been just a awareness on my heart of like, I can't run Instagram the way I've used to run it. I need support, I need systems, I need organization, which is all new for me. um
Yeah,
so
would
we've been
love
that
if you
too.
want to dive into that too. I'd be interested to hear how like you did that with like building out your team and the systems, because that's for a while, and I think it's something I'm still navigating. I'm putting together my systems, but DMs have been just like a challenge for me, because just like what you're saying, is it's this powerful, powerful place to connect with people. And I feel like that's like where you build your community. So it's like,
Mhm.
how do you truly like outsource that?
Dude, it's so challenging, right? Because we can get in, if we want to bring in a little of like masculine strategic energy into this conversation, like every layer of your business, you're working in your business, you're working on your business, right? Those are two different things, right? So working in my business and doing these DM responses versus working on my business, developing a structure for that, right?
Mhm.
Both are very important processes to prioritize. Um, there's also this component when it comes to like strategy that, oh man, it's so necessary. Learning how to ask for support, right? And recognizing that, you know yes, I value intimacy, I value authenticity, I value connection. Knowing those values, how can I create systems that still prioritize those values? That's a really important question for me to ask, because I could certainly hire a random person to navigate my direct messages, but if that person doesn't have the same values as me,
Mhm.
then the legacy, the ethos of my brand, so to speak, is going to fall short, right? So we've been talking a lot about like, what does it look like when we have this need to respond to people, but we delegate, right? I have a team of 4 in my business. We've been working together for about 3 or 4 years, and we're asking these questions, right? How can we create interpersonal connection without me being the one to give all my time? Because that is time that I'm not getting paid for, right? And as a successful businesswoman, I have to be able to balance my time and do only more of the things that are the income providers and less of the things that are not. So that's been really hard for me, because I'm like, I want to talk to everybody and I want to
Yeah.
get to know everybody. And I'm still learning. So for us, we've been looking at we use ManyChat. That's like a huge
Yeah.
software support. Oh my gosh, ManyChat's amazing. You can organize DMs by conversation, and assign them to different team members, and that's been really helpful. So
Oh,
yeah, it's a slow learning, but I'm patient because it's all happening so fast. So it takes me a minute to ground into it.
yeah. Just, you know, I think that's a really powerful piece too. That last part you said is just being patient with it and understanding it's a process. And You're learning through it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and figuring out like, what your audience really benefits
Hmm.
from you. It's that's where that rule breaking comes in, because there are all these trends and all these strategies and all these like different things that we're told are going to work on social media, but ultimately what works for you is going to be uniquely tailored to your authentic community. So the more you get clear on that, the more you know what to create. And your question, just that other piece of like, how do you create so much content?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have fun. Like I
Yeah.
just really enjoy like, you know, um I spend a lot of time meditating with like my mission and just connecting to it as like a third party beyond me of like, okay, what is this thing I'm building, and what does it need from me? And oftentimes, because I prioritize silence and because I prioritize moving my body and going to the gym and eating well, that has a huge impact on what is able to come through me, right? And I know you have very similar values and self-care. Like you have to be a conduit for those ideas, and that's about health, honestly.
I love that you meant we're starting to mention some of this stuff earlier, but I think it's definitely worth highlighting is something I've really learned from you is creating from inspiration, creating from a place of like you're excited about this to get this out, not of like, oh, this person got a million views, let me recreate it.
Correct.
It's good to get inspiration, and that's what you've shared, and that's what I've like been a lot more intentional with scrolling now. It's like I go through, I'm like, okay, where can I find some inspiration?
Exactly.
But then you
Mhm.
you take it and make your own, and I just like you said, like I'm having fun with content. I have this new invigoration where I'm just like, it's really raising my frequency. And I think that's such a great point to highlight as well, is like for a while I was pretty frustrated with social media because
Yeah.
I started falling into those patterns of like, oh, it's all fear based, it's all scarcity, it's getting people addicted, it's not a good thing, right? There's a balance to it because there is some of that stuff going on, but we've talked about that, but like I've really just been having a blast creating content, and like I'm really doing my best to like train myself and like remind myself more so that like I'm creating this because I want to create this, and just genuinely want to get it out. And if people gravitate towards it and they like it and they enjoy it, like all the better.
Key. Key. It's like your your divine expression is the joy. It's not how people react or how people respond or how many likes it gets. It's the joy of being able to do it, right? Um, that is just, oh my God, it's so important because even, we're really I want to be kind about this, but we're really fucking ignorant. And because there are people in parts of the world that like don't have access to technology, there are people in parts of the world who are censored and can't share the things that they really want to share. And we have to remember how much of a gift that is to be able to authentically express, regardless of how it's received. It's just like that is the beautiful part of it that can be really fun and amazing. And we deserve to
Mhm.
love that. Yeah.
I saw a post yesterday that really spoke to me. They said that the person that is having the most fun is the person that's winning.
I love that.
And
That's
so like right after that, I was like, that's my new goal, is to have the most fun I possibly can.
I'm gonna write that down. I have to put that somewhere on my wall to see.
Yeah.
That's such a good quote. That's a mic drop for sure.
We so on our coaching call yesterday, right after I saw that right before we started our group coaching call, and I was like, all right, we're having some fun on this call. So we just had a dance party for like three
Oh, I
minutes
love
before we started.
it. It's so good. That's so yeah, we gotta like not be so hard on ourselves and so serious all the time. Like what are we here for? Gosh, this human experience, like have fun, dude.
What makes
Yeah.
you belly laugh?
What makes me belly laugh? Oh my God. So yes, yesterday I was laughing so fucking hard. Um, my friends are coming. We do like these ceremonies every couple of months. And so I have friends fly out from all over the country. It's really beautiful. It's like 22 of us. We do this a couple of times a year.
Wow.
And she sent me this song. It's in a recording, and she's like, Lauren, here's a new song for ceremony, right? And we sing songs, we pray, we pray to Father Sky, we pray to Mother Earth, we pray to Yemanjah, the Mother of Waters. And this audio she sends me is a recording about the yam, like the potato. And it's just like so funny. And she's being so silly. So then, and it's just like a little spoof. So I send her one back, and uh it's a prayer for the grapes and just praying about how great grapes are. And then she sends me a text message back and says, "Oh, grape spirit," like instead of great spirit. We were cracking up. And then last night I was getting a kick out of like the post I made. I was just laughing about like what spiritual terms are and like what people really actually mean, kind of like, when someone's like, I'll send you love and light, but they're being passive aggressive, and like what it really means in their energy. Yeah, and so I love that because spirituality is like so serious
Yeah.
all the time, and
Mhm.
when we can just bring joy into those prayers, it's so healing. Like laughter is medicine, and
Mm.
that's the other part of social media that I've been really challenging myself with, is like have some fun, be silly a little bit more, like show that joy, because the world needs that medicine of laughter, and it's really hard to create that now, or to some people are having a hard time receiving it because life is so serious. So, but what about you? What makes you belly laugh?
I'm kind of a child, but fart videos that get me every time.
Dude, I saw this reel the other day. I'm gonna send it to you. This is this reel that was like basically saying like people who don't laugh at farts are like ruining their life because they're not experiencing the joy but the same amount of farts. And I was like, that's so accurate.
One of my clients said that one to me. It was
Oh, it seemed you
accurate.
saw it too.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Fucking
Yeah,
funny, man. Like,
it's so funny, but like yeah, to that point is I'm so glad that you said that because it's so true. My friend Lindsay, she did breath work at our last event, so she said that she's
mhm.
amazing. I would love to connect
Yeah.
you with her if you have space. Um, but she's just always laughing. She's been such a blessing in my life. I had a really challenging 2023, and um, she's really kind of helped me through it a lot. And
Mm.
she's just always laughing. And she says that too. She says, laughter is medicine.
Yeah.
And I've, historically speaking, at least like through the last few years, because it's been a turbulence the last few years, just ever since my spiritual awakening and like really kind of figuring, navigating my life. I've been definitely more on the serious side. And
Yeah.
so like
How
I'm committed to having fun and just enjoying life and just not take it so seriously. And that
yeah.
like anytime I'm just laughing a lot, like that's when I'm in a good spot.
What do you feel like shifted you out of that difficult season? Because I had a very similar experience, like back in, it was more like 2018, where like I was going through a new level of spiritual initiation, and it was just so, oh my God, it was like one of the hardest years of my life. What do you feel like pulled you out of that?
Good people.
Mm,
That's kind of like the basis of it. Lindsay was honestly like a huge help. I went to one of her somatic breathwork events and finally got to like yell and scream and let it all out. I had a lot of anger and resentment that I didn't I don't normally have that. I have a very open, loving heart, and this last year was just challenging within relationships, business, intimate, like you name it. Like I was having challenges with relationships and navigating relationships, and I felt like there were certain people that like kind of took advantage of my kind heart and kind of went cold. And
mm,
so for me to be able to just like finally let that out and just release all that was amazing. And then I also on it again, I come back to the content creation. Like I am always learning so much. Like I am an absolute sponge. And like back in the day, I actually created this program. It was to help you speed, learn, and retain. So I learn stuff so quickly and I retain it. Like it's ridiculous. Sometimes I'm listening to things at like 3x speed and I'm still retaining everything. And so I have so much in my brain. And because I was feeling so confined where like, oh, what is my message? I don't even quite understand what my message is because it's more of a feeling. But now I have to have this one avatar and I speak to this one problem. And it was just, I
Mhm,
felt so boxed in.
mhm,
I wasn't expressing, I wasn't creating from a place of like inspiration. I was just like, what do I create so that like my avatar listens to me and I don't confuse them? And so then I stopped doing podcast episodes as much. And it was just like, I felt very stagnant. And I go to these like business conferences and they're great, they're amazing. But like everyone there, they're having success. And I'm like talking to them and I'm like, what do you guys like? What's kind of like your business? And they're like, oh, business coaching. And like every single person there was business coaches. I'm
mhm.
like, what? Do I just change myself into a business coach because that's what's gonna help me be successful? So like that on top of like all these different like relationship challenges. And then I'm not kidding. And this is why I have so much gratitude for you. But like you helped me like unlock and realize that I can't just like fully express and share. And it changed the game. And I started doing solo podcast episodes too that I feel so invigorated with because like I already have a ton so much to share. Like why wouldn't I just like riff for like 30 minutes by myself?
I think it's like realizing like the world needs your medicine, right? Like that permission is I really love what you shared about like just finding your authentic expression. I feel like it's so important. And when we realize that like there's nothing wrong with that and it doesn't need to be in a box or, in a certain label or niche, we can really actually just create from the heart. And that's where we really make the most impact and on ourselves too.
Yeah. And I made this one particular episode. Um, I called it Life is Messy. I had a conversation with a previous mentor and he was just like, "Hey, dude, life's messy. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. And it's not always clean, right? Things get convoluted.
Yeah.
So I made this episode and so I get to see this painting every day and it really speaks to me because it's like I had a lot of conversations with people around this too, because it's this guy, he's kind of scrunched up and he's like doesn't want to get in the rain. And there's this kid just
I love that.
and it's like, what do you choose? Like it's raining. Are you gonna choose to hide and cover your heart and go cold and numb, which I easily could have done. And I think there's a lot of people, I think 2023 was a challenge for a lot of people in
Mm,
relationships a lot. After I made that episode, people like there was a few people that reached out and said like that really resonated. And so it's just like I could easily do that. But like regardless, like I know that everyone is just doing the best that they can and have compassion for them. And I just choose to keep my heart open and keep on
mhm,
loving on people. And like it was just like that. It was just a combination of things, but like the breath work and then just like more creative expression. And then just like that episode really clicked in for me for some reason. And then I shared that at our last event too. And
mm.
yeah, I mean, events really helped me too. I love being at events.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, community is so important. Like I had this past year, I had a really difficult experience because certain people I thought would be in my life for a long time decided to break up their friendships with me, right? And I had to process like what that felt like and what that meant and go through the feelings of rejection and not good enoughness. But ultimately, whew, wow, I'm so glad it happened because I really attribute a lot of the expansion I've seen in my business to that experience because I faced my deepest fears of losing people and it was okay. I got through it, you know? So yeah, it's a good point you made.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I've also really been diving a lot deeper into my faith and just have this ultimate trust and knowing that God's got my back and realizing that like what he's protecting me from, like these challenges, like I have no idea the battles that he's fighting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that maybe these were challenges, but like w- think about all the things he was protecting me from that could like totally destroyed me.
There's that quote, God's projections are protections.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Always feel that.
Where does most of your time go? I was curious about that as you were talking about your DMs.
Yeah, like where I spend most of my time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like this, season of my business, I used to travel a lot. I was traveling like every month to different places. And this year I've actually made a really strong decision to root down and not travel as much in 2024. Most of my time is honestly spent in a lot of rest, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of rest. Um, I tried to create a really good balance in my life. Like that was something that I navigated about 4 years ago, where I just realized that like I was spending all my time in my business and I wasn't living my life. So I really make it a priority to create that balance. I love nature. I love plant medicine study. That's a big part of my work. So I spend a lot of time in ceremony work and facilitation. And then also just I have two pups. I live in the forest, so just home, like, nesting down. I feel like it's so grounding for me to have this like little forest house and bake bread and make cookies and just be
Mm.
like here. And it's really lovely. But I used to spend a lot of time in Sedona and Scottsdale and like did a couple of events there. So like I miss it. I miss the heat, the warm weather, dry air, so nice. But yeah, just taking care of myself. Big study.
Well, if you ever happen to hop back down here, would
I'll
love
let
to
you
have
know
you.
for sure. I will let you know. You'll see. Yeah. Who knows where 2024 will take me, but right now I'm staying put.
What would you say? Maybe just a couple more questions, and then I
Yeah.
actually have a little gift for you.
Aw.
But I would love to hear, since you know the sense that I get from you, you're just very present, very grounded, very in
Mm.
the now. Um, I'm curious, what is your take on it, and like, what is your vision moving forward over the next, if you have a vision, or is it more just like surrendering?
Yeah, like what is my take on like from my business, you mean?
Yeah, like, is it
Yeah.
something you like really dedicate to, or is it more just like surrender?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I feel I was talking to somebody about this. I feel like um surrender is a really big word for me. It's a really big practice, but I also at the same time in that like dualistic, you know, priority because there's both sides.
Yeah.
I also prioritize devotion, right? So I balance, the difference between some people would call it drive or dedication or discipline. I like to use the word devotion.
Mm.
And I feel like success is really a combination of those two energies in right relationship, right? You can't have one without the other. So for me, the vision that has been really coming through in terms of, what am I devoted to? It's obviously really building a very, very strong community in the virtual space. I also feel a really strong calling to create this book that has been channeled through me that I feel like is just time. Um, I feel a really deep desire to now that we have foundation that's been built over the last 2 years is just to continue to grow. Like for context, I spent the last 2 years building an entirely different product suite than what I had the first 6 years of my business.
Mm,
And that was going from like a very more masculine, strategic place to saying, no, I'm actually teaching people how to heal themselves through this online world, right? Like it's not just a business coach thing, right? Um, I've in those 2 years had to build everything from the ground up and channel all these new courses. And
mm.
we have 46 different products for context. Like
Whoa.
there's so many different products that we have available. And I had to build all that. And so now it's done. And so now I'm like, okay, now I'm going to hold that. Now I'm going to, now we're going to reach bigger goals. And we just had a beautiful launch of my mastermind that I run, and that filled up. And now we're going into the Heal program that I run, and we're going to launch that. And so I'm just in a place of, rather than continuing to build things, I'm harnessing and deepening with what's already been created and making it very, very, very strong and making it better, making the community component more of an experience.
Mm,
So rooting, right? Like that's my word for 2024 is like rooting down into what has already been established so that I can grow stronger. So yeah, that for me is like I can surrender and just like go through life and, you know, trust the process and hope that some opportunity comes my way, or I can declare what's important to me, be devoted to it, and then trust in the surrender of, yeah, you have those intentions, now show up and see what happens, but trust the process, right? And don't be so attached. So, yeah, a little combination of both for me.
yeah, it's a duality, right? It's
Mhm.
because so our work, I don't know if you know too much about it, but we create these things called vision videos for people. And it's like a vision board, but we turn it into a movie.
Oh my God, I love that. That's
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's
It was
very needed.
that was the result of psychedelics, mushrooms specifically.
Oh.
Because I'd been creating this podcast, and that came from I was in Utah on a mountain, had the idea for a podcast, and that didn't have a podcast, and I was like, I want to launch this in a cool way. So then we threw an event, and like 70 people showed up to our first event, and like it's like what happened? And then like a couple
Wow.
events later, we had 200 people at it, and
Oh
then I
my
was,
God, that's
how do we
amazing.
monetize this? And then I was like, oh, business idea came up, and so reason I share all that is because like I've gotten very like focused on vision and like what are you creating in the future? But I
Mm,
feel like that's kind of pulled me out of like the surrender and just trust and stay in the moment. So it is a duality of just
mhm.
finding that balance. I did have another question that popped up, and we don't have to go deep on this, but I think it is like definitely a worthy conversation. Um, So when I was searching out mentors in the spiritual space, I couldn't really find any men that I really wanted to align with.
Mm.
And that's the story I tell a lot of people too, because it just had me cracking up when I was in on your master class and you're like, oh, welcome all my ladies and one brother.
I love it.
And I guess I'm just curious on what you think. I have this vision where I'm going to throw a really big podcast event at Chase Field here in downtown Phoenix. That's really what's driving me right now. And the reason why is because I'm very good at like bringing people together and holding space and having real authentic conversations that I think everyone's thinking about, but not too many people are actually having.
Mm,
And just as I've been investing into new mentorship like yours and a few others, I hear this common theme about the women saying that like the feminine need to rise so they can call the masculine up. Because I think in some regards, there's a lot of wounded masculine out there. And I almost kind of think that I'm going to be one of the forefront to bridge that gap because I think there's definitely something to be said about this whole conversation around energetics and spirituality because the business world is dominated by this masculine structure, which, like I said, didn't work for me. And I don't think it's working for a lot of people, but I think people are yearning for a different way of like operating life and business. I think the old construct of success is slowly dying.
Yes, 100%. It's amazing to see that, like the things that we were taught are so important, like 401ks and, retirement plans. It's like the pressure and the aggressive focus of those things has sort of lost its um yeah, it's sparkle. It's not really a priority much anymore for people because we recognize that like health and happiness and personal freedom are way more important than money. And yeah, it's just thinking about I'm thinking about that tornado you described before of like everyone's in there, people are pulling out. Um yeah, that thing that you mentioned about like not having a lot of men, spiritual leaders in the space. I do know a few, and I feel like this might be my own opinion that nobody agrees with, but I'm just going to speak it.
Yeah.
Men need healing too, you know? And I think that the way that things have been moving in our global scale, it's been really difficult um for men to have safety to rise in a healthy way. I don't know if that is something that resonates with you, but like I feel like it's become a challenge. I also feel like this concept of like women need to rise so that the men can like do their thing. Like okay, but like women need to rise because women deserve to rise, not because they're trying to rescue men or because they're trying to make the men better or fix the patriarchy. Like we just need to be in our own empowerment and have that be strong and have that be enough. And I think the same is for the masculine. It's like when we prioritize not fixing one another, but being in our own empowerment, that's when we actually truly get to heal because we're not attached to making the other sex be something that it should be for us, like that's not really what I subscribe to.
Mhm.
Um yeah, so I think there's that component. I also think it's like there are a lot of men in the online space. I won't name specifically, but like men who've been doing wrong, like men who have been spiritual leaders that have been using their power to manipulate and to control and to hoard women, right? And attract women into their field and these like cult like energies. So I think that because that's present more frequently, it almost makes men feel a little bit afraid. Maybe I can't speak for men, I'm sure you probably have a more accurate approach than me, but like yeah, you don't want to do wrong, you don't want to do harm, so you're overly cautious of not being that way. um that's my thought on that. I'm curious what yours is.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. And I would kind of, I guess, recorrect what I said, and I, I didn't want it to come across of like the women need to rise so that they can pull the men up. I
But
think
people do, women do say that, like that, to be
really
clear, women do say that. Yes, that's a very common thing that I have heard. So
interesting.
that's maybe
You
why
know,
I thought.
obviously you're more integrated into the spiritual space, so I do really appreciate just hearing like your perspective on it all. But I think you're absolutely right. It's like we're not doing it to get the other party to rise. It's like we rise and naturally everyone else rise. You know, that's the
Yes,
phrase.
yeah.
Not when I rise, you rise. We all rise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think that is the case. I know like basically my perception. I don't have a ton of experience with it, but it's like I would say like these men's groups are like the spiritual side of things that are on the masculine side. But I know that from what I understand, I haven't dove into them too much, but that's where they say that there is some wounded masculine that are doing harm.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll share, and that I'm really excited about this for our next event. So I have a good friend, his name's Ryan Tamita, and just a soul brother. He's helped me through so much, and really grateful for him. And he's starting this group. He actually has started it. He started it back in this last year, like May was his first retreat, and I went to it, and it was incredible. And so it was like a combination of masculine, but also like the feminine as well. Like we were doing hand-to-hand combat, boxing each other, punching each other in the face, and then, an hour later, we were in the meadows doing breath work and meditating.
Love that.
So I think he's doing some incredible work in like the men's group space, and he's going to be the next podcast guest at the next event, and we're going to have a very powerful conversation talking about like this whole conversation because I truly believe that it's a conversation that deserves to be talked about and opened up because again, I think as we've seen within 2023, it was kind of a mess. And I think a large part of that is that I think the masculine and the feminine have somewhat of a disconnect right now.
Hmm.
And it's time to rise up.
Hmm. I agree.
All right. Time to show you your gift. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let me see.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Okay, it's about a minute long.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, what is this?
I'll give you a little context. So, I didn't tell you this, but your highest self, your future self, she came by.
No way.
Yeah. And she wanted to tell you a few things.
Okay, let's do it.
Hey Lauren, it's me. It's you. The future you. I'm so excited for you to get here. But I'm equally, if not more pumped for you to embrace every moment until you do get here. It's cool to see how passionate, resilient, and courageous you are. I'm excited for you to see who you've become and all you've achieved. Yeah, the optimal health and vitality that allowed you to feel younger and younger every single day. The wealth you built that gave you the freedom and abundance you had always desired. The loving and committed relationships that filled your heart with so much joy. Oh, and of course, you reached all of your personal goals, but most importantly, all the lives you've had a massive impact on, especially your own. Lauren, I love you. I love who you are. I love who you've always been. And I love who you're constantly becoming. Now get up and make it a great day.
What what the fuck, Nico? How did you do that? Oh my God. That is so beautiful. Can I have a copy of that?
Of course, yeah.
Oh
Um,
my God. How did you is this is what you do for people? Where you make these?
so like what we do is we create vision videos, and so like that's the whole component of it. It's much more than just like a vision board. It's like a story. It's got a lot of gratitude in it. We've got friends and family in it. Then we cast your vision. It's all like it's beautifully done with like
Oh, we have to talk about this, bro. We gotta talk about this. Oh my God.
yeah, yeah, we can talk about it. But what we've been doing a little bit just to kind of like show people a little sample of it. And we just like playing with some AI stuff too. So my business partner, he just like chops things up, and it's crazy too because like all you need is like 5 minutes of audio from someone, and you
Yeah,
can
it kind of
just, like,
sounded like me. Like
throw
she
your
had a
voice in there.
similar voice.
Yeah, so we took a sample of your voice, and then you write the script, and then you can say whatever you want to say.
Holy shit, that is amazing. That moved me in like such a deep way. Like exactly what I needed to hear. Want to listen to it every day. Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome.
Yeah,
Well,
what
Lauren,
a
this has been incredible. I want to continue on for hours, but I
Mhm.
want to be respectful of your time. I got some other things too, I imagine
Yeah.
as well. But just thank you for who you are. I see you, and I'm just so appreciative of you. And I'm not like I've mentioned a few times, but it's just worth repeating. Like you've had a strong impact on me, and I just love to give credit where it's due.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I wish you like nothing but the biggest change in the world, brother. Like, may you impact all the lives. May you like let your heart be liberated and continue to create and joy. And yeah, lots of belly laughs. The
Yeah,
best life. All to you.
cool. Any last things you want to share? Like Lauren of Love is your website. You want
Yeah,
to talk
Lauren
about
of
that?
Love. Come hang out. Let's hang out on Instagram. And I think that's pretty much it. You want to see my courses, programs, anything, it's all on laurenoflove.com. And yeah, there's always something happening. Like there's always something to check out that's new and special. So come explore. And thank you for listening. Yeah, it's been great.
Thank you.